You sit with the craving and you sit with it for long enough that it just dies out. Eventually, all cravings, they die out. Alright, hey guys, welcome back to another video on the Flow of Consciousness YouTube channel. I thought it was a good time for me to talk about addiction. And I'm reading the book, The Craving Mind. The Craving Mind by Judson Brewer. And it's a very interesting read, actually. He has an approach to addiction which involves mindfulness and meditation. And as you guys know, I am very big on mindfulness and meditation, and I love basically everything that has to do with mindfulness. And I think it's a great tool not only for improving your relationships and your day-to-day experience, but also potentially to help you with dealing with addiction. And I have a very addictive personality, and I have been addicted to many things in my life. So addiction has been a big part of my whole history. I have tried to find many different ways to deal with addiction, and this book actually is a really profound way of looking at addiction through mindfulness. The main idea of the book is that mindfulness can be a tool for you to help you deal with addiction. And it's a fresh idea to me because I never really thought of mindfulness as a tool to battle addiction. Now, the main idea, the core idea of the book is basically that the craving mind is a habituated mind. So you actually generate cravings through the habit loop, right? Trigger, behavior, reward. So you get a trigger. Maybe it's you see some tasty food somewhere. That's the trigger. Then the behavior is you go and buy and eat that food. And then the reward is the feel-good sensations that it gives you. So people tend to generate a lot of unhealthy eating behaviors that are being reinforced by this habit loop, right? And so once you continue this loop multiple times, your brain starts to actually create these patterns, these neural pathways that get reinforced over and over and over again. And after a while, if you repeat this behavior enough and you get the reward enough, your brain will automatically crave this substance. It can be drugs, it can be food, it can be sex, it can be whatever. It can be social validation, right? Instagram, posting a picture on Instagram is the same thing. You have the trigger, oh, I feel bad. Let me post a picture on Instagram. You gain a lot of likes. Many girls, for example, are addicted to doing this. They feel shitty. They post a beautiful picture of themselves. There's a lot of likes coming in, and then they feel better about themselves temporarily. So you have the trigger, feeling bad. You have the behavior, posting a picture on Instagram, and then you have the reward, the social validation that comes from that, right? But this can create a addictive habit loop, and then there can actually be neural pathways in their brain being formed that create a craving for them to gain more social validation. So maybe they take more risk on social media, or they post even more pictures, etc. Like, it can go anywhere. And addiction there is this kind of like meta addiction, you know, the idea of an addiction. It's not specific to any substance or any particular behavior. It's a pattern, right? Now, mindfulness, as he talks about, who is the guy again? I want to make his Judson Brewer, as he talks about dealing with his own craving mind and dealing with clients going through addictions. Having a mindful approach to your addictive tendencies can actually help you get rid of them. And he starts off by saying that when you experience a craving, you can make a decision to become aware of that craving and sit with it and meditate on it, become mindful of it, and understand that it's simply that, a craving. It's an uncomfortable feeling in your body. It's accompanied by thoughts that you're telling yourself. It's accompanied by rationalizations to make the feeling go away, which is actually fulfilling that craving, right? Fulfilling that desire. I crave a cigarette, so I rationalize why I need to smoke a cigarette, and then you go and smoke a cigarette. Trigger, behavior, reward, right? The craving becomes the trigger. After a while, once the habit loop is established, the craving becomes a trigger. The behavior becomes meeting that desire, and then the reward is the feel good temporarily, but afterwards you feel shit, right? Especially with more like heavy drinking, for example, you feel like totally hangover the next day, or there is so many negative consequences. Like an addiction, by definition, I think Gabor Mate talks about this, is repeating a behavior despite the negative consequences, or something along the lines of that. I'm paraphrasing, but this is what it comes down to, right? You repeatedly engage in a behavior that leads to very negative consequences, yet you still keep doing it, right? So the craving becomes the trigger. Now, if you learn to sit with that craving, you can rewire your brain to form a new habit, which is craving. I sit with it, I watch it go away, and I feel good about that, right? Now, this is a slow process, and it requires time, because habit formation, it takes time, right? So what you want to do is every time you feel a craving for anything, right? It can be lashing out to a loved one, it can be smoking cigarettes, it can be eating unhealthy food, it can be exercising, it can be having sex. There is a ton of things that you are probably addicted to. I'm not sure, but at least for me, there is a ton of things that I used to be and still am addicted to. So you notice that craving and you sit with it, and you understand it's just an uncomfortable feeling in your body that's accompanied by thoughts that are trying to make you get up and engage in the behavior that will satisfy that craving. Now, you still make the decision to actually get up from your chair and lit a cigarette, or get up from your chair and send a text or post a picture, or whatever is the behavior that you're addicted to, right? You still decide to do that. Now, your brain is trying to make you want to do that, or make you think you want to do that, simply because it's so uncomfortable in your body that it wants to get rid of these sensations. But if you practice mindfulness, if you practice meditation, you can, and he talks about this, and I think many actually people who treat addictions talk about this, is that you want to ride the wave, which is you sit with the craving and you sit with it for long enough that it actually just dies out. Eventually, all cravings, they die out. If you allow yourself this time, if you're willing to sit with this uncomfortable feeling for long enough, you will find yourself in a new state where the craving is no longer there, and you can go about your day, and you can actually reinforce your success by tapping into the good feelings that this will create, right? I was able to sit through my craving, and now I can use the energy that I usually would spend on satisfying my craving. I can use this energy now for something productive, for something good. I can now pour it into my project, or I don't know, whatever it is, right? Because usually when we are addicted, we spend a lot of time finding solutions to meet that desire, to satisfy that craving. There is a lot of time that is being invested in satisfying our cravings, right? So instead, use some of that time to just sit with that craving and see it go away, and then use all the rest of the time and energy to reinforce your positive feelings, your newfound energy. And if you do this long enough, for an extended period of time, you will rewire your brain. You will create new circuits in your brain that now will cause you to, whenever you feel a craving, you will sit with it and watch it go away. And after a while, your initial trigger, the craving, will completely disappear, because your brain starts to understand that there is no longer a reward for generating the craving, right? The craving for a cigarette is no longer useful, because it will not be met by a cigarette. It will be met by doing something totally different. So your brain will learn that it's no longer needed to crave cigarettes. I mean, this is a book that I'm reading, and it's, again, my personal experiences, my personal thoughts. I'm not an expert on this, so please, again, take everything that I say with a grain of salt. And I know that some addictions are terribly persistent, and they are terribly difficult to deal with, especially if you don't really have a strong support system, or you live in a part of the world where there is no good health support, and it's not easy. Sometimes people really get into very, very bad and dark places due to addiction. That is absolutely the case. And that's also why I want to talk about this, because I think it's really important that even if you are struggling with addiction and it's really just ruling your life, opening your mind to these ideas might put you on a path towards discovering more and figuring out what works for you, right? Because I am just talking about the things that work for me. Whenever I struggle with addiction and I apply mindfulness, it is successful sometimes, and I feel really good about that. So I want to share that with you. But it's still just my personal experience. For some people, they might need medication. Some people need therapy. I'm not a licensed therapist at all. I'm just a dude on the internet talking about what helps me along the way. And I hope to at least inspire you with that a little bit, right? So maybe you can decide to read this book. I highly recommend it. The Craving Mind by Judson Brewer. You can get it on Audible. I love to listen to audiobooks. It's just the easiest way for me to read books. I don't make time to sit down and read. I can do it on my bike. I can do it while I'm cooking. So it has a lot of benefits, and I'm a big fan of audiobooks. So maybe you can give it a try, right? Maybe I can even put a link in the description if you're interested in reading it. Oh, sorry, I hit the table. So anyways, I would like to learn more about your experiences, maybe with addictions that you dealt with, or maybe you have some input for the people who watch this video on how you overcame certain addictive tendencies, or maybe you can just share some resources. Please share everything that you want to share down below in the comments. I reply to all of them, and I would love to, create some discussion about this topic, because I think it's really important, and so many people struggle with this, and I want to reduce the amount of suffering that people experience dealing with the depression and addiction, because I have suffered from this so much, and I want to make sure that others suffer less, that they don't have to go through the things that I went through. So that's all I have for you today. I hope it was insightful. I hope you learned something, and as always, thanks for watching, guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.